So the floor's in, the adhesive is drying, there's some weights on it, and I've moved on to the next project. And what I am working on is the trim for the exterior of the top roof, and actually some of the legs going down as well. So all the corners are getting wrapped in 2-inch aluminum, 2-inch angle, square corner angle, nice and clean, baby. The little caveat though is my roof is just over 20 feet. So what I'm having to do, and these square corner, the round corners come at 22 or 24 feet. The square corner angle, meaning that piece right there is a clean square cut, and I need that to fit around. I need that to fit around my square corner that I have up there. I don't have round corners. That would push the angle out a little bit. So these are 16 footers, and what I'm doing is cutting an additional chunk. I'm going to grind them down a little bit and then weld them together so I have a solid piece that I can adhere to the roof that's 20 feet long. And I've got 4 of these to build. I'm going to start with the top 2 and then do my short legs across the front and rear top of the coach, and then work on the bottom of the roof. So I will have 4 each long legs, so 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, same in the front and the back, and then the 4 corners. So let's start working on that. All right, that guy's been great. And that bimetal blade works really well for cutting aluminum, but for the cuts we're going to be making, I think we're going to try something a little more sophisticated. So take 2. So what I've been doing to get the top edge and what'll be the bottom edge, sorry, top edge and bottom edge, basically if you have 2 pieces of angle and you're trying to box them, your options are cutting this at a 45 and cutting this at a 45 and having them mate, because that's the look I want. And what I'm doing is I am cutting out this chunk. I don't know if it's any easier or not. And basically, got a little trim in there, but basically this will mount up to this guy, and I'll epoxy this. So it'll basically mount up like that, and I'll epoxy the edges together right there. And I have a solid corner. That's what we're working on. Let's go up top and see what's going up. All right, so that's basically what it's gonna look like on the edge. Now let's go up and take a look. So all 4 pieces are on the roof. I have still the sides, the front and rear edges, and the bottom to get. But basically, this is what it looks like. So I've got a solid piece here. Couple reasons I didn't cut a 45, so I could have cut a 45 going from here to here, and then I would also have a joint here, like a split right there. So two reasons I didn't cut a 45 here and actually decided to notch out the 90 was, one, having a cut here, my fear was these little edges, I'd have two edges here that could potentially pop up. I don't think they ever will, but they could. And the other big one was this. Now this piece, you can't see it with the tape there, this piece here overlaps this piece. Instead of having a cut down the middle that I would have to either weld or epoxy or something. So I was worried about welding with the composite panel underneath, so now all I'm going to do is epoxy the joint, sand it down, and that'll be a solid piece. But yeah, 4 down, a ton more to go. Trim's up. I've got a bunch more cut, but my clamps are all in use, so I can't hang any more trim pieces. And we've got some intermittent weather coming through, and it rains a little bit, and then sun's coming out, and then it hits 90, and then it goes back to 85. And anyway, so I've got my slide out trim pieces, and these were a bugger to find because nobody stocks these things. The company that used to manufacture these got bought out, and the company that bought them out sent me a catalog with these pieces in it. I was like, great, send them to me. They're like, we don't have those anymore. So basically, this little lip right here, this basically sits up like this, and this little lip down here is what seals against the bulb seal that'll hit right there. And this piece right here rides against the edge of the slide out. Well, of course, the only two lengths they have are roughly a 6-foot and roughly an 8-foot. And I've got roughly 14-foot slide outs. So once again, I've had to kind of meld things together, and this one actually came out pretty good. I'm going to paint them and prime them and paint them. And again, along with everything else, these are getting Linexed. But I think all in all, that turned out pretty good for making my homemade 14-foot slide out trim. 1 down, 5 to go. There you go. The backside's not quite so pretty, but we'll primer and paint this. And especially after it gets a coat of rhino lining on it, it'll be perfect. 2 down, 4 to go. Well, I've got, let's see, 2, 4, 6. How many do I need? 6, 3 on each, yes. 6 long pieces. I've got 4 14-footers for the outside and 2 16-footers for the inside, made out of those 8-foot and 6-foot and 8-foot and 8-foot pieces. And they're by no means perfect. You can see, especially in the sunlight, you can see, and you probably can't see it there, just a little bit of a hump. But the outside is getting Line-X, so we don't care if they'll be perfect. And the inside, I haven't figured it out yet. But they turned out pretty stinking good. A small note, however, is, let's see. So this is what we ended up with. This is 2 pieces. I ended up cutting it out because I put a 6-foot and an 8-foot instead of 2 8s together. But that's actually pretty stinking good to the touch. There's that, and this is how it started out. Is obviously just welded. And something we figured out is the little sons of a gun are strong this way and strong this way, but weak this way, especially if I don't get this. I don't know how I missed this weld all the way up to the top, and that little crack right at the top split this. So yeah, lesson learned. And I slowed down my welding a little bit to get a little wider on the seams. So those are the slide out trim pieces, and right now I'm finishing up on the aluminum. I've got the entire top wrapped, top and bottom. I'm putting the legs in, and I'm putting the 5-foot legs in on the sidewalls. So I've got the last piece up here. I had to wait for clamps in, and I'll start putting those little legs in next, and hopefully we'll have this thing just about watertighted up. So it helps to know your welder, or at least learn to figure it out. So this guy has got a setting for the wire size and the material thickness, and I set it to 14 gauge and 030, which is what I'm welding with, and I was just getting my butt kicked. You can see that these welds are like, there's no penetration in that whatsoever. It just kind of stuck. You can see I snapped off a piece there. Just trying to get it to hold. And what I figured out is there's, on this wire size setting, there's 3 or 4 different intensity settings for the wire setting. So I'm still kind of playing with it, but it's getting a little bit better. I'm actually getting it where it'll hold. And now I've got a big weld on here, and I'm actually tearing the metal, trying to get this apart. So let's see what it's been messing with. So there is the shower pan, and I once heard somebody say, if you can't weld, you sure darn well better be able to grind. It looks like I got a little spot right there I gotta hit. But yeah, I've got my corners together. So basically I ripped these 8-inch pieces, and what's gonna happen is the wall's gonna come down over this to flange it, and then I'll have my pan, my step down here and my pan below it. But yeah, the corners turned out fairly decent. Not perfect, but all I need them to be is watertight. And then I've got the stoop set for the composting toilet, And so that'll be the composting toilet there, and then the rest of this will be shower. And again, there's shower drain. So we're slowly figuring it out. 1/8 inch is a lot easier to weld. It's a lot more forgiving with the heat. This 14 gauge is really easy to blow a hole through. So there's the start of it. Let's see if we can finish this thing up. So a little update of where we're at, because I got a bunch going on. So the shower pan's pretty close. I've got it all welded. I'm going to sand some of this epoxy down. I've got joints on both sides epoxied. These are for electrical into the bathroom. We'll finish that later. And believe it or not, I think I'm going to Line-X this thing. I'm going to have them Line-X the whole thing to waterproof it. So I've got a drain in there. That's the battery's holding down the drain just to make sure it stays in place. But the shower pan's pretty close. I have to get it sandblasted, primed, and then Line-X'd. I think that's for sure what we're doing. Yeah, baby. That's Line-X. It's a little gloomy outside, but the shower got done. I've got my cross rails in. It's been sealed up on all sides. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Set in place, and yeah, there's a composting toilet too. Shower's in. That's not all. A little sneak peek into next week.